Hey fam, and welcome to the Happily Ever Active podcast powered by Fit for the Magic, where Disney magic meets health and wellness. I'm Stephen Kabibi, your friendly personal healthcare companion, and I help Disney travelers walk more, hurt less, and enjoy the magic without burnout. This week, Lisa DiNoto-Glassner joined me to give a recap on the Run Disney Walt Disney World season opener, Wine and Dine 2025. We went over how the courses differed from other Run Disney races in the past, some of the special characters that runners get to meet, the weather during race weekend, what Lisa's training was like leading up to race weekend, managing expectations as a busy mom and entrepreneur, and much, much more. Find everything, including my pocketbook guide, Disney Ready, your pain-free park survival guide, over at fitforthemagic.com. And if you found something useful that you learned on this episode, please share the show and tell a friend. Okay, here we go. Lisa, it's so good to have you back on the podcast. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Like we were just talking before we went online, like things are crazy right now. But yeah, last weekend with the races was just like totally awesome. And it'll be fun to sit down and kind of rehash all of that with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can only imagine that, training for Dopey is going along so well, given how, busy life is and everything.
Yeah, it's not, it's we all have a different. Every season has its own nature, and this is no exception. So definitely not like a PR friendly season for me, I think. But you know what? Like you gotta take it as they come, and some seasons you just have to prioritize differently, and and just make sure that like when the race, we'll talk more about this obviously, but like when the race comes, you just have to be smart about how you run it based on how much prep you've been able to do. So, happily I'm at a point in my life where like I can run a half or even a full, like kind of blindfolded. But like that comes with, knowing your body pretty well and how to go about it to get across the finish line in different situations.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, jokes aside, we're kind of in the same boat, more or less, just with training and everything. So I'm still very much looking forward to Dopey, but to say that you can run a half blindfolded is something to be jealous of. I don't think I'm there yet, but we'll see what happens the next. Well, it's November right now, so we got basically 2 months, maybe a little less, right, because of tapering and everything, but. Yeah, let's go into Wine and Dine because this whole episode is really about how on recapping it. Let's start with the fact that if you, the listener, has done any walking or running event, it doesn't matter if it's a 5K, 10K, half, a marathon, or even just a charity walk. You are more than likely to feel a lot of different emotions as you cross the finish line, but also on the way there, right? Lisa, this race weekend was very special for you, and you had talked about that on social leading up to it. Can you tell the audience why it was so special going into this race weekend, and then also what was running through your mind as you were crossing the finish line both days?
Yeah, so I started doing Run Disney events back in 2016. I've talked about like that first half marathon and how important that was for me for different reasons. It was, I ran my first Run Disney race was the Princess Half Marathon in 2016. And it was actually on the 2-year anniversary of losing my dad. So it was very symbolic for me, and training for it was very meaningful, and, and all of the things.
Right.
And I've done, season after season after that. I did, before we moved down here in 2016 and 2017, I would do Princess and Wine and Dine this weekend. Those were the two that I would always do.
Yeah.
And I always said I would never do Dopey until we lived down here, just because it's such a chaotic, crazy weekend, especially with young kids and all the things. But since moving down here in 2017, I've basically done more or less perfect seasons, like pretty much every year. And so I finally sat down and did the math after last season ended, after the spring of this year. And I realized I was at 98 98 Run Disney races. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to hit 100. And so I just happened to have decided not to do the 5K for Wine and Dine. I traditionally will do every race. Usually there's a 5K, a 10K, and a half marathon for those of you who are unfamiliar with the way Run Disney is set up. And then marathon weekend is different because you tack on a marathon to the end of those 3 races. So there's the 4. So typically I will do all of the races, but as I've done more and more of them, I've kind of decided to be a little bit choosier about what I do and not just feel like I'm doing them just to check a box. So the way that I'm approaching it, this is a very roundabout answer to your question, but the way that I'm approaching that for the most part is that when the challenge involves all of the races, so Springtime Surprise and Dopey, I'll do all of the races.
For sure.
And then when the challenge is just the 10K and the half, which is how it is for Princess and Wine and Dine, I'll probably just do it that way. And so for Wine and Dine, I was registered for the 10K and the half, which I was very, very happy about because when I realized I was at 98, I kind of wanted that number 100 to be a bigger a bigger race. And so it worked out perfectly that I was skipping just happened to be for the first time in forever, to quote one of our favorite characters, I was skipping the 5K. And so, a roundabout answer to your question that what was so special about this weekend was that the 10K on Saturday was my 99th Run Disney race, and then the half marathon on Sunday was my 100th Disney race. And so that was my 100th Run Disney finish line.
Yeah, it sounded like you really like those odds.
Yeah, it worked out really well. It worked out really, really well. It would have been like sort of anticlimactic to have it be a 10K, and then 101
Yeah.
I think I might have to dress up as a Dalmatian for the W5K for my 101st.
You totally should. I'm gonna be looking out for that for sure. What was going through your mind, as you crossed that line on the half? I can only imagine, it's one thing to feel like you've actually accomplished a half or a marathon, especially if that's your first. Like I remember my first and only half. I trained for it. I really wanted to get a really good time. I ended up getting a good time, but when I got through that finish line, I was like half dead, half excited, half just relieved that, all of the training is behind me for now. What was going through your head when you crossed that line?
I mean, I think for this one, it was somewhere around that last mile that I started to get all up in my feels about what it meant to me and thinking about how far I had come. And like I said, that very first Princess race was very, very special to me because it was on the 2nd anniversary of losing my father. And, it was kind of wrapped up in showing the universe I was still kicking and in memory of him that I ran that. And so, my head was kind of going back to that time and like how very, very, very far I've come since then in life and in running and in all of the things and how much things have changed. And it, you just start replaying all of it and all of the meaning starts to hit you. And I don't know if anybody else has been through this, but I don't typically get winded when I run, but I get winded when I get emotional when I run.
Yeah, totally.
And so you get that sort of choked up feeling in your throat. And then all of a sudden, you have to start very regulating your breathing a lot more, a lot more aggressively.
Come back down.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, Lisa, okay, let's just get it. You can have all the feels after the finish line, but first we have to breathe through this last mile. I think all finish lines are important and to be celebrated, to say the least. But yes. I think just because it was such a big anniversary for me, you just start thinking about all of the things that you've been through and how far you've come and back to that very first finish line that meant so much. And I just was kind of all up in my feels. And I think I had a pretty teary finish at that half. So.
Teary, but I'm sure extremely photogenic finish. Just knowing your history of Run Disney photos.
Yeah, it came out okay. I think my 10K finish line, it's funny because my 10K finish line is so triumphant. And I actually I took a chance on the 10K because I actually I actually jumped at the finish line, which is a very, if you know how PhotoPass works, that can go very well or very badly, just depending on when they catch you.
sure.
But I happen to have like the finish line mostly to myself. So I was like, all right, one of these photographers is going to get it right. So I kind of jumped at the finish, like with my hand up in the air, like in a triumphant fist in the air. And it was a great finish line picture for the 10K. And so for the half, I was like, all right, I'll let myself get a little bit emotional on this one, and very different vibes, but yeah, I think it captured the moment just right.
That is amazing. That is so amazing. If you, the listener, haven't already seen a lot of the photos that Lisa's talking about, a lot of them have been posted online. So at the Castle Runner on Instagram. So please check them out. They're just amazing photos to look at, and they look so fun. Like they give a great. The photos themselves give great insight into just what Run Disney is all about, and what we're going to be talking about for the next, umpteen minutes here. So let's jump back to just Wine and Dine in general. Wine and Dine is the first race in the season for Run Disney, correct? Wine and Dine starts us off, and then I think it's Springtime Surprise that finishes off the season. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you're talking about the Walt Disney World season, which is what I typically run. So they've just recently, like in the last year, added the Disneyland races back into the mix. And so technically they do like a Halloween themed, it's like late September-ish. Well, actually, it's actually more early September. But they'll do a race out in Disneyland, or a set of races out in Disneyland in early September. And it tends to be right around my older son's birthday. So so I don't go for that reason. And also just because, like I said, I'm trying to be a little bit choosier about what races I run and, how much money I spend on these things. So so I typically don't do that one. But if you're talking about like, countrywide, I guess that would be sort of the first one. But most people think of Wine and Dine still as the first. And it's kind of when everybody comes together again after being off for the summer and reunites and the community gets to see each other again. So it's Wine and Dine would be the first weekend of the race season. And then, of course, you have Marathon Weekend. And then Marathon Weekend is early January. Princess is late February. And then in like mid-April-ish, they have a Springtime Surprise.
Right, and big difference between the end of the Walt Disney World Run Disney season at Springtime Surprise and the start of the season at Wine and Dine, because the weather. So let's talk a little bit about the weather real quick. Leading up to Wine and Dine, you and I are both locals here. The weather was it kind of felt like it was all over the place. Like it was warm leading up, and then it got cooler as we approached the weekend, and then it looked like and felt like perfect weather for the weekend, and then we got this torrential downpour after the race finished, which was crazy. How was it, especially given the fact that, the races always start around 5 a.m?
So, I mean, honestly, like it was as good as it could really be. So typically you're getting to the races like 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you're starting to run, depending on what corral you're in. The first corral starts at 5. So you're either going to be like somewhere in there, you're either going to be cold while you're waiting or hot while you're running. Right. So if it's nice, if it's really nice to be waiting around in, it's probably going to be hot to be running in. And if it's really cold to be waiting around in, it's probably going to feel pretty good to be running in. So that sweet spot is very hard to find, where it's not particularly uncomfortable on either end of that. So, I mean, I think we got as lucky as we could have. Florida being Florida, like all of the race weekends are kind of a toss up. I think Marathon Weekend in particular can go wildly in one direction or the other as far as cold or hot. Like we've had 90-degree marathons, and we've had marathons where we were waiting around in wind chills of 17 degrees. So it can be like it's very, very hard to predict. And like people who go all out with their costumes, it can be kind of a crapshoot about what how to plan your clothing. But yeah, I think this particular Wine and Dine, we really got as lucky as we could have. We had some all over the place weather leading up to it. The rain held out for the races themselves, which was lucky.
Yeah, it really was.
So, and I think particularly, and we can talk about the courses obviously too, but given the hilliness of the half marathon, just because there were so many overpasses toward the end, I was grateful that it wasn't too hot.
Before we go into the courses themselves, I know that again, you're local to the area, but like for people that are flying in, is it one of those, since the weather can be so wishy-washy, is it one of those where do runners bring several options for costumes and or options for running clothes and then kind of decide the night before what to wear?
So to some extent, I mean, as the days lead up, you can kind of get a better sense for it. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily like plan your outfit like to be hard and fast for any particular weather in the months leading up because you really don't know what to
Yeah.
expect, especially certain weekends, like I said, like marathon weekend.
Yeah.
But that being said, like at least for me, and I think for most people, like once you warm up, you're not going to be cold while you're running necessarily, especially for like wine and dine. Like maybe over marathon weekend, it's going to get chilly, but once you're moving, it does feel okay. For me, I think I always try to have on hand, and when I was traveling down, the same thing, but now just in the house, like some potentially like throwawayable articles of clothing, like tossable articles of clothing that I can at least have on before the race starts, and then maybe leave on for a little while until my body warms up while I'm running. So if you can go to the Goodwill or go to some kind of a discount store, or, hit up Walmart or whatever to grab, maybe like a zip up hoodie or something else
Yeah.
that would be, or I like maybe some. And I always try to have like a set of hot hands and like cheap gloves or something like in a drawer that I can grab in a pinch. And then the nice thing about that is that any clothing that gets discarded before the race and on the race gets collected by Disney and then donated. So it'll all go to a good cause. So I try to hit up the Goodwill or something like that for some zip up hoodies or other things that are easy to take off that aren't going to necessarily block my race bib. So I'll make sure to have my race bib on an article of clothing that will stay on, that will be visible for PhotoPass, because that's how PhotoPass matches you to your
Right.
pictures. So you want
Right.
your race bib to stay visible at all times. But like something like a hoodie that I can like unzip and just kind of be waiting in beforehand, and then once the race starts can discard, or discard like right before I start running, depending on the weather.
Yeah, that's great. The fact that Disney donates the clothes that are left behind, I mean, it just goes to show, Disney doesn't really leave any detail unthought of. So that's great.
Yeah. And similarly,
Let's,
I always keep like a poncho around, and I try to keep a clear poncho so I can like use my phone underneath of it.
that's
So I
good.
always have like a clear poncho and some warm clothes like laying around just in case I need them.
Just out of curiosity, because I was thinking about this while I was driving to work this morning. In terms of like holding your phone, do you use a run belt? Do you use like a band around your arm? Do you hold it? Do you have a Ziploc for it? I mean, there's a lot of things people do, but what's your preference?
So I run strictly in Lululemon Fast and Free leggings, which have a pocket. So, and that's like all I run in for that reason. Sometimes if I'm wearing like a race costume that's like a skirt or something, I'll wear like a pair of running shorts that have a pocket. But to
Yeah,
this day, I have yet to find like an armband that's comfortable.
for
And I feel
sure.
like I've tried every option. But yeah, they all like rub or chafe or move around too much, or I haven't found anything. So I stick with what works for me. So I just run in a pair of leggings. The Lululemon Fast and Free is what I run in. I think they keep you warm, but they're also like wicking wise. I'm cooler in them than I am in shorts on a hot day, and then I'm warm enough in them on a cool day. So they work for me. And also on the course, I'm like pulling my phone out constantly, whether it's for characters or to like grab a picture or something
Right,
on the course or to like change my music. So I need to have my phone somewhere that I can grab it quickly. So for that
for sure.
reason too, like a zip up armband or something, I think would be kind of a pain. So
Yeah, because I run with like a running fanny pack, which also holds my water bottles. But in terms of nutrition, we can get into that later. But I definitely need to start experimenting to see what works best for me. I've had running shorts specifically from Fabletics that have those pockets that go that are, what do they call it? They're like on the tights part of the shorts. And
yeah.
I've used them before, but I'm not a big fan because my phone still like jumps around when I'm running. It just makes it uncomfortable. But I haven't looked into Lulu. I'm sure that there's some stuff for the guys that can work pretty well too. So I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I know friends of mine, my guy friends who I run with, run in like, they run in like a Lulu short, but like with an underlayer that has a pocket, like a similar pocket. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
exactly.
it's what happens to work for me. I don't have any affiliation with the brand, at all. And I'm sure there's, other brands that would work equally well. But for me, like the Fast and Free in particular is just kind of my go-to, and they're super comfortable, and the pocket like holds fast pretty well. So the phone doesn't move around at all.
Yeah, I'm just to add a little bit to that. I was never a big fan of Lululemon to begin with, just because of how pricey everything was. But then, like the first time I got my Lululemon zip up hoodie, and the first time I got my Lululemon running shirt, I was like, wait, this is actually quality stuff. I might actually have to get some more of this stuff. It's pretty good. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it holds up really, really well. And like for what it's worth, like I said, I have no affiliation with the brand whatsoever. Like websites like Poshmark, where they do resale
Oh yeah, for sure.
sites, like you can get the leggings for dirt cheap, like if you hit it right. So I always just kind of keep an eye on, like I'll randomly do a search, on a site like Poshmark, and see what's for sale, because they hold up really, really well. So even if you're buying them used, they tend to
Yeah,
be perfectly fine. So probably half the leggings that I have in my drawer are resale from Poshmark or a site like that,
that's
that
awesome.
I got for like, $25 instead of 80 some dollars.
Yep, gonna be looking at that and then seeing what's on Black Friday.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go ahead and hop into the courses. So you did the challenge, which consists of the 10K and the half.
Hmm.
Talk to me about. I mean, let's start with the 10K. How is the course for that? How does it compare to other courses in the season?
So it was really different and super fun. So I try, even when I write an article about it, I try not to, and I'll like share the course in the article,
Hmm.
because I'll do like guides a lot of times before the races. Like I try not to look too carefully at the course myself, because I kind of like to be surprised. And the 10K courses are usually pretty similar. Like you kind of run through Epcot and World Showcase, and you do that boardwalk loop and then back in
Yep.
around Spaceship Earth to the finish. And this one was, I mean, you covered similar territory. It was still like the boardwalk resorts and Epcot, but you were in and out very differently than usual. So, yeah, there was like a lot of surprises. Like it was like we're coming into Mexico. Whoop, we're leaving again. It was like, oh, we're coming into Canada. Whoop, we're leaving again. So it
Just
was a
keeping you on
super
your
fun
toes.
course. Yeah,
Yeah.
you were like, it was super. It was just different enough to be like really fun. And there was a ton. I don't know if it was just me. Like I didn't sit down and like I need to sit down and like count characters and count other entertainment, because I felt like there was a lot on the course for both the 10K and the half. I felt like there was a ton of characters, and like there were marching bands and the DJs, and they have like
So cool.
the Japanese like
Taiko drummers.
taiko drummers, and obviously the gospel choir at the end and stuff. But yeah, I
Hmm.
felt like there was a ton of entertainment on the course. And yeah, even the 10K, which tends to always be pretty steady as far as the course, felt really different. And I love that they mixed it up a little bit this year. It kind of kept me guessing and made the whole thing go by super fast.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's almost like the springtime surprise of wine and dine, just keeping you on your toes.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
was there pretty much entertainment along like every mile? Is that how that works, or was there a stretch of road where there wasn't too much?
So I don't feel like there were any stretches. I mean, the 10K in particular, you're not on the road for quite as much. We can move to the half after, but the 10K, you're on the road for like a little bit of a stretch beforehand. You kind of knock out the road time early. But
Hmm.
even there, they had characters and marching bands very, very early on, and I think they've wisened up to us a bit, because so like Disney does crowd control better than anybody, and Run Disney also does crowd control better than anybody. So
Yeah.
I feel like, so of course they organize us into corrals by pacing. So they put the sort of fastest runners out first, and then
Hmm.
go from there. And that's where proof of time plays in, that you would submit before a race. So they organize us like that. But then there are the people who are running the race for time, and then there are people who are running the race for characters. Right. And then a lot of people kind of fall somewhere in between in there. But
Right.
there are people
Right.
who like are trying to PR the race, and like are, feel like, this is their moment to PR. And so obviously they're not going to be stopping a bunch for characters, because they don't want to lose the time. And
Hmm.
then there are people who aren't really prioritizing the PR. for that race, and we'll stop more for characters. I always joke that if you PR a Disney race, you probably didn't get your money's worth. You should probably PR your local races and enjoy the Disney races. But
Some truth
but they're
to that.
but so, not to give my secret away, but my way of dealing with that has typically been that I usually start in the first wave of the first corral. So, you're kind of ahead of the lines to begin with, but if you skip like the first two characters, you hit a really, really sweet spot, because you can stop for pretty much everything after that with almost no line, because by starting early and skipping the first couple of characters, you kind of put yourself ahead of the people who are stopping for characters. And like that, and you're also like not chasing the people who are trying to win the race. So you're kind of in that sweet spot in between where like you've bypassed the first couple of character lines, and then from there on out, you can kind of like weave in and grab them very quickly. But they're sort of on to us because they have started. I was like, darn it, Disney. Like, I just figured this out. So they've started. So like very, very, very early in the race, like within the first like fifth of a mile or something these days, they'll have a really, really good character.
So you want
So
to
it's
meet
like,
them.
darn it. Like, I'm trying to remember who it was. I forget who it was for this one, but I think the second one was the ballroom haunted mansion setup. They had the haunted mansion dancers, and I was like, darn it, I want to stop, but I didn't stop for them. But I stopped and like took a picture of them, but I didn't wait in the line to get a picture of them. But yeah, like again, like even very, very early on in the race. And I think it's partly because they're kind of onto our technique, and they're like, all right, if you want characters, you're going to want this character first. So it's their way of sort of weeding people out again, like with crowd control early on in the race.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have characters super early on and then throughout. And they had, I think they had a high school marching band like super, super early on also with the
That's
10K.
really cool.
And then a couple more throughout the race.
Any other notable characters that made this one a little more special than other races in the past?
Oh gosh, you know what? You're asking me and I'm unprepared. I have to like look at my pictures while we're talking. No, but like I know Shang-Chi was out with Mulan, and that was super cool. They had like Stitch's friends out.
Often.
No, he was like
good.
He was a good one too. I like wanted to give him my number. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. I'm happily married. I'm like literally looking at my phone as we're talking. Yeah, I bet they were really, really good character stops. But again, I need to like look back at.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. As you're looking, I mean, Disney does it so well where they listen to everyone that attends the race and everyone that also goes to the parks, right? So, for example, I think there was a year, it might have been like a couple of years ago, where Duffy started showing up at Run Disney, and then shortly after that, Duffy started showing up for Jollywood Nights. So Disney's been really good at listening to and taking feedback from athletes, Run Disney athletes, and also just park guests. So that's why every Run Disney race, everyone's like, who's going to be there? What character is going to be out there? So anyways.
Yeah. So, okay. So the Pinkerton, is that his name? The like funny guy. So Frozen, the 10K was a Frozen theme. I'm blanking on his name. Oh gosh, but he was out and he was great.
Yeah.
And then the one that I was super disappointed about was Kristoff was out, and I got him, but I didn't find out until after the race that he was with the Trolls.
Oh, that's so cool.
So he wasn't out when I went by. The Trolls weren't out,
cool.
but.
Yeah.
And they've never been here before, and what I heard was that they were brought in the friends of the Trolls, whatever the costumes were brought in from Japan.
That would make sense.
I imagine that they just developed those costumes for the new area in Tokyo Disney Sea that has the Frozen
Fantasy
theming.
Springs, I think, right?
Yeah. So I assume that the Trolls were like, the troll costumes were created for Fantasy Springs, and they supposedly like put the outfits on a plane and brought them in just for the 10K. So I was a little bit bummed to have missed them, but like, a friend of mine got video of them, and they were awesome. They were so cool.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah, they were cool.
That would make the race altogether for a lot of people, I can only imagine.
Yeah, they were cool. They were huge. From the video that I saw, they were super cool. Jeez. So they were good. I'm not bitter at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know if they're gonna. We don't know if they're gonna bring him back. We don't know if they're going back to Japan permanently. I mean, who knows?
I know, and I thought for sure that they would have him out for the half marathon as well. Like even though it wasn't Frozen themed, I was like, they didn't
Right.
fly the costumes here all the way from Japan
For
only to
just
use them at
one
one
race,
race.
right.
But yeah, they just used him at the one race. They only brought him out the one time. So
Pulling
yeah,
out
but that
the
was
stops.
cool. Yeah, that
Pulling
was
out the
cool.
stops.
That was cool. I know.
Yeah. Anything else about the course for specifically the 10K that puts it apart? Like you talked about the entryway and getting out, like getting into and out of the different parks was definitely different. Keeping you on your toes. Anything else? Because you mentioned how some of the courses were hilly. Did that apply only to the 10K or the half?
That was more the half. It was the
Okay.
end of the half. So we can talk about that when we talk about
Yeah.
the half. But yeah, no, I mean, it was otherwise like, I mean, you got to enjoy all the same things that you normally do. Like the 10K for me is all about like Crescent Lake at the Boardwalk Resorts, like before dawn is so beautiful and peaceful. And going around World Showcase before sunrise with the torches lit and, you know, over the water
Yes.
and
Yeah.
seeing like, you know, the Torii at Japan and everything, you know, you know, all the World Showcase countries are all lit up in their lights. So to me, that's like quintessential 10K. And you wove in and out of Epcot a little bit differently than usual, but you still got all those things. So that to me, like World Showcase before sunrise and Crescent Lake before sunrise and like the torches going and all the things, like that's quintessential Run Disney 10K for me. And so we fully got that still.
That's awesome. So that's something definitely to look forward to for Dopey.
Yeah, for sure. For
Cool.
sure.
Let's go into the half. What is there anything that made that different from any other half that has been put on by Run Disney?
So, you know, every race weekend's half is a little bit different. So Princess and Marathon weekend's half, and of course the full marathon, you run down Main Street you run down like Main Street in Magic Kingdom, and that's like sort of the highlight of the whole race is like turning that bend and like toward the castle, and they have like, I'm getting emotional thinking about it, like throngs of people along Main Street just cheering, and it's like it's like the big moment of the race. And Wine and Dine's half is different in that we don't do Magic Kingdom. It's just Hollywood Studios and Epcot.
Okay.
But you really but you know, setting aside like how magical that moment is at Magic Kingdom at the other half marathons, this course is still great. Like you go through Epcot in all of the same sort of ways. You get that like quintessential, again, like World Showcase view and in and out of what I still call Future World. And then there's a decent amount of road time, and you make your way through Hollywood Studios, sort of down Sunset Boulevard, so you get the Tower of Terror. They always have the bellhops out for a really cool photo op in front of Tower of Terror, which is awesome. And we ran through Galaxy's Edge, and they had Mando and Grogu out, like as a character
cool.
stop, which was awesome. They were kind of off course a little bit, so it was almost easy to miss them, but they had them, and they had them set up in this amazing backdrop. It was very cool.
Yeah.
So that was great. And then you kind of wove from there into Toy Story Land, which was awesome and all lit up. And then they had us actually go backstage. If you know, like before you go into Toy Story Land, like to the left there, like past where the Joffreys and stuff are, there's like a Incredibles door wall.
Yeah. Yep.
That's like blocks off
that whole Pixar area. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like instead of like where Pixar used to be before Toy Story Land opened. So we actually ran back there. So
like
they had
behind.
that. Yeah, they had us run backstage there, which was awesome. So that was all opened up when we ran through there. And I guess just because they haven't had reason to update it because it's backstage, it felt very, very MGM back there, which was very cool. Yeah, so that was cool. And then around mile 7, we did a nice tour of the Blizzard Beach parking lot, which
Really? Are you literally just
you weave your way through like the whole Blizzard Beach parking lot. So it's kind of a joke at Marathon. So the worst, quote unquote, worst part of Marathon was, so for Marathon, you go through all 4 parks.
Yeah.
And then it used to be that you also ran through ESPN. But in recent years, they've changed that so that now you run through Blizzard Beach instead. And everybody always jokes about the Blizzard Beach parking lot because it's like mile like 21. It's like you're exhausted and you're like, seriously, like I'm running through this parking lot
Could
right
just
now.
sleep through that now.
Yeah, and it's like sort of, I mean, we joke about it, but it's sort of one of the more like monotonous and brutal parts of the marathon because it's so late in the game and it's like
Yeah.
a parking lot. Um, so we did the Blizzard Beach parking lot as a part of this half, but like all of us said afterwards that it was like such a delight to be just at like mile 7 of a half marathon doing Blizzard Beach instead of like mile 21 of a full. So even though it was, just as monotonous, they did have like a fair amount of entertainment on there. I think they had like a marching band and a couple characters, and some very sweet, people at the water stops in there, and they gave out like the little the beans, what do you call it? The energy
The sport
beans.
beans, I think.
Yeah, the
Jelly
sport
Belly
beans.
sport beans.
Yeah. So they gave those out there. But yeah, like, so we had to do the Blizzard Beach parking lot, which like kind of sucked, but all of us were joking afterwards that it was absolutely delightful to be doing it at mile 7 of a half instead of 21 of a full.
Yeah, for sure. I can picture that. I can definitely picture that. And then hilliness, I guess it was after mile 7 where things kind of got hilly, right? That's what you were mentioning earlier.
Yes, like I didn't know we had that many overpasses. So Florida is very flat, and if you train in Florida, yes, Florida is very like comically flat, and like if you train in Florida, like you really need to seek out the hills if you're looking for hill training. Mm-hmm. Like you can do like a 20-mile training run and look at your Garmin, and it's like you gain 20 feet.
Yep.
So, which is not something I'll complain about, but yeah, like there was like. At one point, we were like 3 overpasses in. I was like, this is really kind of crazy because it was at the end. They were just one after another. Yeah. And then by like the 5th one, I was like, holy cow, I didn't know there were that many back there. Because we were kind of backstage on their overpasses, which was interesting. I mean, it was fine, but like it was a lot of overpasses. And there was one like particularly humbling overpass where, I don't know if you noticed, but like we were going over an overpass at one point, and I looked down on it, and you just saw like 5 people. It was and sometimes like you don't quite realize there are those points in the course where you like cross paths with other like parts of the race.
Yeah.
And it's like a very like it's not a great feeling when you're like on the coming end of it, and then when you're on the going end of it, it's a great feeling because you're
right.
So like at one point we were on a bridge and I looked down and I didn't fully realize how far ahead those people were. Like they were clearly winning. And I looked down and they were like, they had like the motorcade that was like escorting the like people at the front. I was like, holy cow. There was just like a few people like moving like below us. And then I realized later in the race, like just how far ahead of us they were. Like they must have been clocking like 5-6 minute miles.
Holy
but
cow.
that was a very humbling overpass. But like go those, like good for them. That was awesome. It was awesome to see. Like it was awesome to see them go by.
Yeah,
but
inspiring, but at the same time, you're
like... inspiring and humbling.
Yep. Yeah, humbling.
And it always feels better when like, very humbling. But yeah, no, I mean it was, you just kind of have to like pace yourself and watch your breath, especially if you're not training in hilly conditions. But I'll be curious to see how the other halves shake out, if we're going up and down similarly. But it was right. It was different.
Yeah, and why don't we dive a little deeper into this whole into that whole thing, because we joked about it earlier, but training recently hasn't been as as successful as we would have wanted it to be, especially given the fact that we're almost 2 months out from Dopey. How did you go about training, but also more importantly, how did you go about listening to your body as you're going through these races, especially given the fact that some of the parts of the courses were kind of a surprise?
Yeah, so I normally will do one of the Hal Higdon training plans. So he's one of the more popular training plans that you can do, and he tends to be pretty heavy mileage, and you don't start. I will usually build his training plan out into the summer, but his training plans don't technically start usually until early September, and you kind of dive in pretty heavy mileage from the get-go. So I in years past, I'm usually very on about it. And I actually really, and that's why I kind of build it out into the summer, is that I just appreciate the structure that a good training plan gives me, both in making me run the miles, but also making me rest. Like knowing that like I'm supposed to be doing, 6 miles this day and 8 miles the next day and 6 miles the next day. And then Friday I'm supposed to be taking off. And then Saturday and Sunday I'm supposed to be doing long runs. It's like, it tells me when my break days are, and it tells me when my runs are. And it kind of just adds sort of a nice structure to my life as a whole. So I really love training season because of that. And I'm usually very, very religious about my runs. Like, they just, and you kind of, that mental training of it becoming a non-negotiable, like getting past and that's the other thing that I like about the training plan, is it sort of takes the question out of it. It's not like you wake up in the morning and you're like, do I feel like doing it? Do I not feel like doing it? Do I want to run 5? Do I want to run 8? Do I want to run 12? Like, let's feel it out. It kind of like takes the question out of it. And it's like, the night beforehand, what's coming the next day. You kind of eat accordingly. You go to bed accordingly. You lay your clothes out. And then when the alarm goes off, like, you are doing it. Like, it's not like you lay there wondering whether or not. Like, it's so just that like mental toughness that comes with like a really good training plan, I love.
For sure.
And so it's not for lack of wanting that this season has been different. It's just been a very, very busy time in my life. And, the way that my kids' schedules have played out. So my older son is in high school, and I will take him to school. I drive him to school like 6:45 in the morning. So I get up with him at 5:45, and then we leave to go to school, and I drive him to school at 6:45, and then I get back at 7:15, and then kind of start my younger son's like middle school routine. And then he won't go to school until sometime between 8 and 9, depending on what his morning activities are. So my like 5:45 to 9 a.m. block is full. And so I'm either on a long run day, I'm either waking up at 3:30 in the morning or I'm not starting it until 9 o'clock in the morning. And if I'm starting it at 9 o'clock in the morning, my day's pretty shot, because by the time the run's over and I've showered and stuff, it's like almost time to go pick up my older son from high school. So, we're all busy, like all of, that's not unique to me, but like all of that to say that you start having to think about like your health in general, and like the importance of sleep in general, and like prioritizing that. And I've learned over the years that like sleep is just more important to my functioning than anything. And I don't get 8 hours most nights, but like I do need more than 3. In order, at least, I mean, I can get by on that. I used to be able to get by on that pretty regularly, but as I've gotten older, I can't function on no sleep just as well as I used to when I was younger. So
grad school was good times. Yep.
Yeah. I used to be able to just pull the all-nighters back to back and keep going, but too old for that now. So it just comes down to a point where it's like, all right, I'm either waking up at 3:30 every morning to do this, or I'm not. And so, you just have to prioritize and like prioritize the sleep. And, if I'm not running, I'm making sure to be doing, Pilates, or like I'm making sure to be doing something that fits into my schedule that gets me like physically and mentally fit, because running serves a physical purpose for me, but it serves a mental purpose for me as well. My running is sort of a meditation for me, and it kind of gets me in the right mindset for the day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this season, all of that to say, at a certain point, like something's got to give. And unfortunately, my typical running schedule has taken a hit because of all of that. And I've just sort of been trying to, I will try to get a couple of long runs in on the weekends, but the sort of back-to-backs and the full training schedule haven't been happening like they normally would. And I think I just kind of went into this race weekend, knowing it wasn't going to be a PR weekend. I wore my carbon-plated shoes just to sort of get me to base pace.
I love it. It gets you in the right mindset, though, right?
Yeah, Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I was in the Nikes and, and just tried to be kind to myself and, enjoy the course and enjoy it that much more. And, um, yeah, I mean, like I said, like when I say I can run a half blindfolded, it's not so much like I can sprint and PR a half blindfolded. It's just that I know my body well enough to know like what I can
Yeah,
do and like how to pace myself at the start to be, like, to still be comfortable at the finish. Um, and that that I need the sleep, that I need the nutrition, like all the like to sort of be taking care of myself that much more in all of the other ways throughout the race. Especially with Run Disney race weekends, like I think sleep deprivation, especially for Dopey, because it's 4 nights,
right.
4 days in a row. I always tell people like who are coming in and want, one good piece of advice on Dopey in particular, that like sleep, it's like sleep deprivation will get you before anything else does.
For sure.
Because it'll dehydrate you, it'll inhibit your recovery, all of the things. So like we're all going to be a little sleep deprived by the end of that week just because of the nature of the beast. But like anything that you can do to get yourself in bed, on time is super important. And, especially leading up to this, this past race weekend and not being able to train like I would have liked, I was just very careful to be prioritizing like all of the other things that I could be doing to take care of myself.
Yeah, that's huge, and something that I really do want to emphasize for our listeners, because it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter if you've gone to the Disney parks several times or if you've done a bunch of races before. You are going to be in different stages of your own fitness journey, depending on what life gives you, right? So knowing your body and knowing what you can do at that particular moment in time is really important. And then also catering, making sure that you're taking care of everything else that you can take care of, your sleep, your diet, listening to your own body, doing what you can to stay fit is huge. So that's a really cool concept that's simple to listen to and understand, but very difficult to put to practice. So one, big props to you for doing that. And two, like, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and especially with the race weekends, and especially like if you're here with family and you're on vacation and everybody's like gung ho to go to the parks after the races and stuff, those windows of time to take care of yourself can be very limited. And
Yeah,
the other thing, I'll say to, to people looking for, a bit of advice on top of watching your sleep, and it, plays into the same ideas, like make sure to manage the expectations of the people that you're traveling with going in.
for sure.
Because if you're coming to run a set of races, you're probably not going to be like park hopping with the family like you normally would. Or at least you might be a little bit, depending on like your approach to things, especially once you're a little bit more seasoned, you can figure out what you're comfortable with doing. But, like make sure that they know that like come X hour, like you're going to be getting in bed, and they're welcome to do whatever they want. But like you're going to be getting in bed, and make sure that you can get that rest, because you're going to be waking
Yeah.
up like, 2 o'clock in the morning or so. So yeah, I think like making sure that you create those windows of time, not just before the race, but after the race to take care of yourself is super important.
For sure. Absolutely. Any last thoughts about Wine and Dine before we kind of wrap up? Honestly, I feel like we can kind of keep going and talking for a while about this, but there's a point in time where we probably have to wrap up. Any last thoughts?
No, I mean, this is it's we summed it all up pretty well. I love Wine and Dine, because it's the beginning of the race season, and I just like the Run Disney. Run Disney is all about the community. I think more than anything else, it's such an incredible group of people. And Wine and Dine is always sort of that first weekend of the season when everybody gets to come together again and just enjoy each other and be out on the courses together. And, I felt it, all the more this year, and appreciated it all the more this year with everything else that's been going on. So super excited for it. And, it just made me that much more excited for marathon weekend and doing Dopey again with everybody. And, hopefully being able to give myself a little bit more time leading up to that to get ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And to that, I think we can probably finish up. Lisa, where can everybody find you?
So you can find me on social at the Castle Runner. That's where I cover all the things that we've been talking about, along with, our life, a mile and change behind the castle. And my website, The Castle Run, is where I recap a lot of the races and post guides beforehand, and also just post a lot of life stuff, in that same context. And I also have a photography website called thousandcircles.com, where I post a daily image of Disney every single day. And you can subscribe to emails there to get those in your inbox. Is a nice little way to start the day. And my Instagram for that is Thousand Circles Images.
And on that note, I had finally just recently subscribed to your email list, which amazing photos. And one of the first emails that I received when I first signed up, I saw the image and I was like, we have to have this. I talked to my wife, I sent it to her. I was like, we have to have this. So we bought it, and I received it on Saturday. Today's Monday, so I'm really happy to actually have it now. I haven't even looked at it yet. I opened the box. I haven't looked at it, so I'm gonna show it to everyone now. Here we go. Here we go. Oh gosh, will it fit?
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, I remembered when you grabbed that one, and I was so happy. Yeah, so the idea behind the site is that it's just sort of these little moments at Disney that you wouldn't necessarily know are from Disney unless you know they're from Disney. So that's Water Lily, very, very early in the day, that's just opened up as you're going through and living with the land. So
yeah, it's so funny. Yeah. Photos and images, they evoke different memories, different emotions. I had read what you put in the email, and I knew it was from Living with the Land. But when I first saw that, I don't know why, but the first thing I thought of were cherry blossoms along the Meguro River in Japan, because on our honeymoon, that was one of the places that we spent the most time in. We just walked down the river, bought some food from the convenience store, and just spent time there just looking at the cherry blossoms because it was cherry blossom season. So it's interesting how photos that it evoked just different memories and different emotions, but I love it. I can't wait to put it up in the house.
Thank you. So thank you. That's the beauty of it. They all evoke different memories in us. And I have, and you'll see. I know you're new to the email subscription list, but when it is season, you will see a lot of cherry blossoms featured in the pictures. I've got some that are just the cherry blossoms from the Japan Pavilion. I have some that I've done some in the past that are looking through the cherry blossoms at the Eiffel Tower in France, and they'll be featured quite a bit come spring.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I have a feeling I'll be purchasing more in the future. We have a lot of wall space in the house, so I think due time.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for getting it. I saw that and was excited. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah. Lisa, thank you very much for joining me. I look forward to talking to you again leading up to Dopey, and possibly doing another episode post Dopey, especially given the fact that it's going to be my first Run Disney race and my first marathon. So thank you again, Lisa.
Super excited to talk about it before and after. It'll be fun. Thanks for having me.
That's all for today's episode. A Disney World vacation can mean walking 15, 20,000 steps, maybe even more per day while you're there at the theme parks. And you're going to need to physically prepare for all that walking that you'll do at Disney. If your body's not prepared, it'll pay the price in soreness, pain, exhaustion, or even injury. This 30-day Disney walking challenge is designed to start gentle and then progress in length and intensity so that you'll conquer the Disney parks all day without burnout. Every day for 30 days, you'll be guided through your challenge with your walking workout for the day, an inspirational Disney quote, and a worksheet to track your progress. You'll be amazed by how much stronger and confident you'll feel at the end of the challenge. Head over to www.fitforthemagic.com/30 to sign up for your 30-day walking program. Now, I want to turn it over to you. I have a question that I would love to hear from you about. What special Disney, Pixar, Marvel, or Star Wars character would you want to meet? One of those characters that you don't normally see in the parks. Let me know in the comments or over at the Happily Ever Active Club on Facebook. If you want to hear more and want to learn more, I encourage you to head over to fitforthemagic.com, where you'll find more resources on how to have a pain-free vacation. And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with anyone that might find it useful. And of course, please leave a rating or review in your favorite podcast app if you enjoyed the show. This helps me tremendously as I move forward with more episodes to come. I hope you'll tune in to learn more about how to have a pain-free, soreness-free, exhaustion-free vacation so that you can make magical memories with your loved ones.